What's better, push-ups or dips? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the two exercises and try to figure out in which scenario would either exercises be better. Now, quick context, I've been training calisthenics for the last 5 years now. That's damn near half a decade, like, no cap. But that said, calisthenics comprises of bodyweight training, and I can pretty much say that I've done my fair share of time and effort in regards to training the push-ups and also the dips, let alone all of the feats that I've gotten with both exercises. But that can be saved for a whole different video. So before we figure out what's the best exercise between the two, we need to ask ourselves these questions. What muscle groups are being worked? How can we implement progressive overload? And then finally, which of these exercises has the most strength carryover? So let's start off with the first question, man. What are the muscle groups being worked between the push-ups and dips? Now, both exercises will have similar muscle engagement between the chest, shoulders, and triceps. Some secondary muscles being worked would be the core to act as a stabilizer when performing the movement. But I will say you're not going to be getting a whole bunch of core gains from training the push-ups compared to that of the dips. So I won't invest too much time on it because honestly there's way more benefits in regards to the core by training the dips over the push-ups. And that's simply because there's less points of contact for stabilizing the body with the dip position than there is for the push-up position. Now onto the primary groups being involved: chest, shoulders, and triceps. The biggest differences between the two exercises is really just the angle of how the muscle groups are being performed. With the push-ups, you're going to be in a more horizontal position and you're going to be pushing yourself horizontally away from your torso. This is going to be classified as a horizontal push. Any exercise under the horizontal pushing movement pattern is going to engage the chest, triceps, or shoulders one way or another. And also because of the angle of our hand position, and since we're utilizing elbow extension, the push-ups is going to be targeting the general chest area, aka the upper and lower pecs, which is pretty similar to that of the flat bench press. Now moving on to dips, this may be hard to grasp, but the dips, even though you're more in a vertical and upright position, it's still going to be classified as a horizontal push movement, meaning you're going to be pushing horizontally away from your torso. Now some might consider this exercise being a vertical pressing movement, and I don't blame y'all because once upon a time I used to think so myself. But honestly, as I did more research into movement patterns and just the biomechanics of exercises, I started to realize that it's not a vertical pressing movement. With the dips, it became very clear. A horizontal movement pattern is any exercise that generally hits the chest, shoulders, and triceps. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, the dips also hits those muscles because whether it's on a research paper or you just actually feel the muscles, you're going to know that the dips is going to be a horizontal movement pattern. Now, the same concept applies to any other variation. This could be the incline bench press, the flat bench press, decline bench press. Doesn't really matter. One similar thing that you got to take note of is that all of these variations still hit the three muscle groups that classify under the horizontal push movement pattern. Secondly, I will say that I experimented with the push-up and dip position itself. And if you really look at it, the exercise mechanics of the dips is very similar to that of the push-ups because of the elbow extension, but with a slight difference of using a neutral grip to hold yourself on the bar versus the pronated grip to position yourself on the floor with the push-ups. That being said, the dips is going to be targeting the general area of your chest, but with a little bit more focus on the lower chest, mainly because you're getting a deeper stretch on the lower pec because you're going through a deeper range of motion compared to that of the push-ups at least. Now, in order to know which of the two exercises between the push-ups and dips are better, this then leads on to my second question. How can we implement progressive overload? Progressive overload is the ability to make a muscle work harder over time by making an exercise more difficult, all for the purpose of what? Building muscle and strength. Now with calisthenics, adjusting the position of our body, increasing the number of repetitions or sets, increasing the time under tension, aka tempo, and then finally, my favorite, increasing the amount of load that you work with, aka weighted calisthenics. This all leads to progressive overload. That being said, I personally found it through my own experience and also YouTubers themselves that it's a lot harder to implement progressive overload with the push-ups. And this is coming from more of a feasibility standpoint compared to that of the dips. For example, because the push-ups are a lower strength barrier to entry, for me to really feel a pump on the push-ups, standard progression, right? It takes me at least like 30 to maybe 40 reps before I get a pump. And to be quite frank, man, that's a whole lot of repetitions to be able to just feel a pump, let alone take it to failure. Because if I train the push-ups to failure, I'll probably be doing anywhere between like maybe 70 to 80. I remember at one point though, when I was really training push-ups, I used to do like 100 reps every single set. Like I was really specialized in the push-ups, but now I don't think I got that endurance in me. So I think, like I said, me just training to failure is going to take a whole lot of repetitions, a whole lot of time. In my personal opinion, it's not a really effective way for training for muscle hypertrophy and strength. Whereas with the dips, I pretty much feel a pump, right? Not necessarily failure, but I get a pump with the dips anywhere between 10 to 15 reps at most. So right there, we get to see that it takes a lot less repetitions with the dips in order to feel a pump based off my personal experience, right? So this is relatively speaking to just me. That means the dips is going to be a higher strength barrier to entry, meaning it's a harder exercise to perform compared to that of the push-ups. Now one might ask, what happens when we change the position of our body, which is technically another form of progressive overload, specifically to calisthenics. Say we start doing the archer push-up, another variation. Now this exercise is going to be targeting more, or I would say it's going to be isolating more of the chest and leaving less engagement for the shoulders and also triceps. And the whole purpose of progressing the variation in this scenario is so that we can make sure that we're getting the same pump within a similar rep range. Now with the archer push-ups, I haven't tested it out, but I'm sure I'm going to be getting at least half the reps of my standard push-ups before I feel a pump. So half of 30 to 40 is probably going to be anywhere between 15 to 20. If you really think about it though, that's still a whole lot of repetitions to still just feel a pump. So, and that's not even considering that I'm taking the exercise to failure for true muscle gains, right? And another thing is too, because we're altering the position of our body, we're changing the variation. This is going to be compromising the amount of engagement that we have within our triceps. So with just the standard dips itself, we're getting more activation on the triceps, and especially the shoulders and chest, which honestly, if you think about it, it leaves the dips more beneficial because it's just a more holistic exercise. And another way you could say is that it's a better bang for your buck, like no cap, man. So what happens when I start adding progressions to the actual standard dip? Weighted dips, man. With the weighted dips, if you place the weights beside your feet using a longer chain, you're always going to have the load positioned to your center of mass. That way, the amount of loads that you're using is positioned not only equally across the muscle groups that you're trying to target, but in my personal opinion, in a more safer and just feasible manner. On the other hand though, if you wanted to start implementing progressive overload by adding weight to the push-ups by doing weighted push-ups, you either got to place the weight plates on your back, which honestly, if you have any more than 2 plates, like 245 plates, it's going to just jack up the risk of injury. Like instability might play into a factor, so one of the plates might shift over to another, which might fall over to your neck, might just mess up the set entirely. So it's just not really feasible in my personal opinion. Or you can just set it up with the weight belt and have essentially the weight belt on your chest and then have the weights hanging from the chain like that. But it's just a very uncomfortable setup, and personally it takes a lot longer to do compared to that of the weighted dips and the belt chain. So plus you just can't go as heavier too, man. Like with weighted dips, you can load a lot more weight compared to that of the push-ups, which is why I just stick to the ring push-ups compared to doing weighted push-ups. Because with the instability factor of the rings, you're still going to be getting the same stimulus to that muscle group, the chest, the triceps, or shoulders, compared to that of the weighted push-ups, but in a more safer manner, since there's not a whole lot of variables you got to take into account. It's just you and the rings. That's it. But let's say even after all that, right, you start adding weight to the ring push-ups. Comparing that to just the standard bar weighted dips, I'm going to still give the weighted dips on the bar, yes, keyword the bar, better than ring push-ups. And I even talked about all the dip variations that you could do on the rings. And that's going to lead on to the final question of this video. Which of these two exercises has the most strength carryover? And to put it simply, man, that's going to be the dips. All right. If you didn't put 2 and 2 together, I've only been talking about the standard bar dips, right? I haven't even talked about the other progressions that you could do with the dips, whether it's on the bar or on the rings. And I still provided factual content and just experience from me to why the dips provides to be a better exercise compared to that of the push-ups, even when you compare the standard dips to the higher progressional levels of the push-ups. For example, if someone put a gun to my head and say, hey, I want you to do either weighted push-ups on the rings or weighted dips on the rings and go to failure, I can guarantee you that I'm gonna fall short on the ring dips, because the ring dips weighted too, it's just that much harder than the weighted push-ups. And again, the dips are just a more holistic exercise. You're gonna be getting a better bang for your buck. And this is because the push-ups is, generally speaking, a lower barrier to entry in regards to your strength. So I can say if you can do anywhere between like 8 to 15 dips, I can confidently say that your push-up numbers will be double that, maybe even triple at the very minimum. Like, you'll probably be banging out push-ups of at least 30 to 40 repetitions, right? Before you even like really struggle, really, like, to be honest. But like I pointed out earlier in one of my points of this video, the dips is going to have a better stretch on the lower pecs. So that means the dips from a hypertrophy standpoint, it's going to work better for building your lower pecs compared to that of the standard push-ups, which is honestly why I train just the weighted dips compared to training the weighted push-ups or any push-up variation. Not to say that push-ups aren't bad. The push-ups just become kind of like supplementary. You know, it's not really necessary per se. But I will say I am going to start implementing ring training, ring dips very soon to my program, and completely drop the bar. So I'm not going to be doing no more bar movement in regards to calisthenics. And shoot, I don't know. I might start my ring gymnast arc. So we'll see. But hey, what do I know? If you like some more content like this, be sure to follow me, man. I'm the Tough Fitness Scout here. No cap.
Cobra Trains, he's up next. Make sure y'all subscribe to him. He's number one out here.
He's the toughest fitness guy out here.